Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, December 21st, 2021 meeting of the Litchfield Planning Board. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we don't have our alternate, Sam. Our alternate? Yeah. And James is not here this evening, and I don't see Curtis. So I'll start with the roll call of members present. Michael Proto, Chair.
Kate Stevens, Vice Chair.
Kimberly Queenan, Selectman's Rep.
Ron Stevens, member.
Okay. And we have with us tonight Jay Mankara from RPC, our circuit rider. Good evening. First up on the agenda for this evening, public input on non-agenda items. Are there any items not on the agenda for this evening that anyone would wish to comment on? Okay, hearing none, I will close public input on non-agenda items. First order of business this evening, we have a brief conceptual presentation of the future of Olsen's Mobile Home Park Group 3A. This is a preliminary conceptual consultation. So according to 130.1 of our site plan regulations, any applicant may request a pre-application conceptual review before the board. Requests for a conceptual review shall be made in writing and must be submitted at least 15 days prior to the conceptual consultation meeting of the board. This preliminary consultation review phase shall be directed only at the review of the basic concepts of the proposal, requirements for final submission procedures of the board, the desirability of types of development, and the goals and recommendations of the master plan. Discussions between the board, its agents, and the applicant shall be in general terms, shall not be binding to either members of the board or to the applicant. Statements made by the planning board members shall not be the basis for disqualifying said members or invalidating any future action taken. Such discussions may occur without the necessity of giving formal public notice, but such discussions may only occur at a formal meeting of the board. I'm going to take it that there has been no abutters notified for this concept. Okay. Is the applicant present this evening? I'm going to ask the applicant to come forward. You can have a seat at the table. If someone wants to sit there, they're welcome to do that as well. And introduce yourself to the board.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah Boucher. This is my attorney, Bob Best.
Good evening.
This is Fieldstone Engineering. Bob will open it up, and I'm happy to introduce myself.
Are you a resident of Litchfield, or?
I'm not. Okay. My parents are, or my father is, and my grandmother's in a butter.
Okay.
And Jeremiah is a principal in the owner of Olsen's Mobile Home Park. My name is Bob Best. I'm an attorney at Sulloway and Hollis in Concord. I'm also your neighbor across the river from Merrimack and the planning board chair over there. So I've been in your position and kind of gone through some of these. So with
welcome.
that, I think the thing I'll promise you most is to be brief, because that's the most important thing when I'm on the other side of the river. You may be familiar with Olsen's Mobile Home Park. It's been around for a long time on this site. Probably, I think I've got records into the 1950s, maybe into the 1940s on this being a mobile home park. So predates DES. It probably predates your local planning and zoning regulations. And it's been on this site with long periods of success and more recently some periods of distress. I don't know if you've been out there recently, but the park needs some love. It needs some care. It has some challenges with its paving and with its utility infrastructure and, some other things that need to go on out there. And I became involved in it as the representative of the prior owner who sold it at auction. And that's how it sort of became under its current ownership, with an owner ready to fix it up. But that was a very close call. And if there wasn't going to be an owner available to buy it and invest in it, it could have reached the point where the park would be forced to close. And that would obviously have been a disaster for the 40 odd families that live there, who for them, as much as the park needs some new love, it's home to them, and it's an important place to rehabilitate and fix it up. Jeremiah does have local roots. I think you probably have seen him with some other projects in town. Hopefully that's earned some good reputation in terms of following through on his commitments and making sure that he does things the right way and in a nice way. I see this as a triple opportunity for the town. Lots of opportunities for us as the applicant, but for the town, as you know, you've got a statutory obligation towards workforce housing, a statutory obligation towards manufactured housing, and you've also got a distressed property in town that needs to be improved and upgraded. And this is a chance through this project to tackle all three of those things, to check all those boxes. And that's a really huge, rare opportunity to have. To achieve some expanded workforce housing, satisfy some of your obligations to make reasonable opportunity to site manufactured housing. And I always love it when in my board, when we get a chance to turn around a site that's really been struggling and needs to be improved and needs to be brought up to modern standards. So with that in mind, that's all the introduction I have. Let me turn it over to the engineers to tell you the real story about what they plan to do.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Chris Gaida, and I'm a certified wetlands and soil scientist with Fieldstone Land Consultants. I'm working with Chad Brandon, who is the project manager on this. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here tonight. But we started this project, it's probably going on 4 or 5 months late this summer. I met with Chad and Jeremiah and a number of members of the town and the DES for a number of factors. As Mr. Best mentioned, this property is a little bit distressed and suffers from some deferred maintenance. One of the primary focuses that we're working on right now and are imminent for approval is the septic systems that are out there are substandard, shall we say. So as part of this, the first phase is to get all of these onto a state-approved septic system. We're proposing, this is an existing conditions plan, a little bit marked up. The oranges are the existing dwellings. The pink is basically the existing roads network through there. And the green here is tree lines. Most of this is open area with some brush and tree lines in there. So obviously there's existing homes here. And part of that investment is some substantial investment as far as the septic systems. All these are most likely going to need new tanks and a new pump station and a leach field right here. Right now there's a lagoon out here, which is not up to the current standards. So as part of that substantial investment here with water service, right now it's served by Pennachuck, but all of these dwellings basically need some upgrade. And as part of that, we're hoping to basically upgrade the entire property and add some additional units in the back here. This is basically a conceptual plan of the lots, meeting all the town's requirements as far as the setbacks, the lot sizes. I believe there's 59 you mentioned that we're proposing. The dark green here is obviously there's wetlands kind of shown in blue, and then dark green wooded areas and buffer zones around here, and as proposed leach fields. This one here is the first one basically to service all the existing dwellings, and these other ones here will service the remainder. That's essentially it in a nutshell. This area right now, as I mentioned, is there is woods out there, but it's also an open, very sandy, almost like a gravel pit kind of feel. And there are those, existing road networks. So we're trying to maintain these loops here for safety purposes, continued traffic flow through there, and again, to meet all the town's requirements on the lot sizing. Maybe Jeremiah, you may want to jump in here. And
Sure.
you can touch.
Yeah, so
I wanted to touch COVID. You had.
Sure, guys. I'm excited about the project. I've been in the manufactured housing industry 15 years, so I'm intimately knowledgeable about all aspects of it. So this was quite a emotional project for me in the sense of pure return on investment would not work. When I saw this come to auction, I grew up at my grandmother's house in the yard, and I always knew this place in the back. And the initial view of the project would be any other place and any other time I would not move forward. The deferred maintenance on the existing site is significant. So I bought many mobile home parks, and when the water lines, the sewer lines, the roads, and the deferred maintenance on the electrical, basically the entire infrastructure is shot. So my intent was, okay, I put the auction, I put up the bid, I won the auction. I knew what I was walking into. I had no misconceptions that this was an upkept park, but I really wanted to get involved because one, I really love the area. Two, I think it's a great project that we're providing a really good service. Big yards, really affordable houses. I don't rent the mobile homes. My intent is to sell every mobile home. So we buy brand new homes, put them out there. The price point will be under $200,000. That's our target. We'd like to put on there 2-car garage. So it's a really good entry level home for people. Plus the lot rent right now is $500 a month. That includes their water, sewer, and trash. So the goal is to, one, when we bought it, reach out to all the tenants. They were pretty angry at the previous owner. There was not very goodwill. So we talked to them, said, hey, this is new ownership. We're going to do these changes in the front. Just be patient with us, and we're going to get it worked out. The initial response was, yeah, right. Now they came back and they were starting to build a good rapport with them. Things are running a lot more smoothly. My father has a paving company in town, and he's got in there, and we've made significant improvements already. And then next, we want to really utilize the back of the property because my goal for roughly $2 million was not to come in here, scrape it, and put an industrial park or some type of other use. This is specifically what I want to do is provide housing for people. So in order to justify well over $500,000 in improvements in the front, I'd like to continue to grow the property in the back and keep it a mobile home park and provide the housing. So the intent is to, over the next 6 months, work with the state, get the sewer in place, get the current infrastructure repaired in the front, and then in the back, have the permit to have these additional lots so that we can go put a model home there, show, and then have a sales office where we can start taking deposits on homes and eventually have people move into the back of the community, and it'll be paved roads and top notch. So just want that opportunity with the town, and I think it's a great location for it. I mean, we still keep the aesthetic look of Litchfield, where we have nice farmhouses on the front, and my grandmother still has her flower shop on the front. It's not open, but in the back we also have a great community, and we'll have over 100 lots, and it'll serve a great purpose for the community. So I'd be honored and love to do this. I have a lot of people here to support it, and my family would be involved in the project, with construction and management and community outreach. So it's something that it's not just about building it, selling it, make a big profit, and see you later. This is really about a long-term commitment to the community, and hopefully, maybe I'll live here myself when it's down the road. But I thank you all for hearing me out.
So I wanted to also share with you first a couple of examples of the types of manufactured homes that will be bought and put on the site. I've got 2 photographs of examples from the company that they would purchase them from. Manufactured homes just are different than they were a generation and a half ago. You'd hardly look at that. I mean, I'll pass this around so you can take a little bit closer look at it and think this is the old style, mobile home, or they used to call them trailer parks. Here's another example of one that's positioned the other way on the lot with a wide farmer's porch across the side, and then it's lengthwise going back into the lot. And these are examples of what some of the more modern ones look like. On the plan that was up there, all of the homes are on at least 10,000 square foot lots, which is about 1/4 of an acre, which is a pretty spread out density for a mobile home park or a manufactured housing park. They tend to be, that's about 4 homes per acre. They tend to be as much as 8 homes per acre. And I think the front part of the lot is probably closer to 8 homes per acre. There's some real advantages here. I know that Jeremiah talked about his costs and that he's got about $500,000 in infrastructure in the front half, in paving and water and sewer and all of that. And I know when I'm sitting in your seat, it's really almost automatic that I say, not my business what this costs for you. But in this case, because it's workforce housing, you do get the privilege of considering the cost and weighing that in here. The cost at the end of the rainbow has to be affordable for the people to live, which is why the statute gives you the authority to consider the cost as a part of this. And offsetting the cost of that infrastructure with some opportunity to have new tenants and new homes in the back is really what makes this project feasible. That's what makes it go. You get the advantage of cleaning up what's been a lot of neglect over the years. In the front part of the park, you get to, like I said before, have workforce housing and manufactured housing sited in the back. And it's a good trade-off to make those kinds of things affordable. One of the really neat things about this particular parcel, if you haven't been out there, it joins off of Bancroft Highway with probably about a 300-foot, 400-foot roadway that doesn't have any manufactured housing on it. It's mostly wooded on one side with a home on the other side. And from Bancroft Road, you can't see what is back there. You can't see any of the manufactured homes. And obviously, we're building beyond that, back behind the electrical easement that divides the property. And there won't be a single way from any visible public street, road, or otherwise where you can see what's going on back here. And the proof of that is you wouldn't believe what's been going on back there over the years. You know, some of the old homes have been there as partially demolished, and old vehicles. And we talked about there being a septic lagoon. And although all of those sins are things that are going to get cleaned up as a part of this project, those things largely went unnoticed because it is such a remote parcel. It's so well hidden from the roadway. And won't it be great to not have an ad hoc junkyard on the back part of the property, but actually nice homes with modern manufactured houses.
And Bob,
these
I
standards.
sorry to interrupt there.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention too that there is green space. This won't just be every single lot crammed in there with every acre with a home. So we will have a playground area, sitting area, a little dog park area, but where you see on the green in that space that will be manicured. And it's just a space that people can walk around and be outdoors. So I did want to touch on that. So we have somewhat of amenities, not a clubhouse, but at least outdoor amenities for the residents.
Yep. There's also respects all the wetlands, leaves them all alone. That's what sort of the darker green area with blue colored in it at the top part of the parcel is. Those are all wetlands that are left alone and undisturbed that are on the property. So that's there. We know that we need a variance to move forward. That's already been identified because of the commercial industrial, the southern commercial industrial overlay zone that you have in the southern portion is where this property sits. I'm sure you guys know exactly where it is, but that's Noel's Tree Farm that's right next door to the side of it, and that's an abutting property to it. And obviously, lots of traffic that goes on there this time of year. So that's all that I have that I wanted to comment on, but let's hear from you guys, questions and comments and concerns. And we want to absorb and take all of that in so that when we come back with a formal proposal, we're a step ahead on any concerns you may have.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Conservation Commission make a comment.
Sure.
Just, do you know, are there any vernal pools out there? Have you done any springtime studies as far as vernal pools?
We haven't done in-depth springtime studies, but there's no basically indication of, vernal pools, basic characteristics wise.
Okay.
This area here is kind of like a drainage ditch through here.
Yeah, I'm more questioning back in the wood.
Yeah. There has been, the previous owner has a little bit of manipulation back there. So some of it has been altered a little bit, but as far as vernal pools, we didn't see any indication of that. It's something we always keep a lookout for. So as we continue to do our work, in the springtime when it lends itself, we'll be looking for that.
And you probably have to get a report from NHI, Natural Heritage.
Yeah, the NHB,
NHB.
endangered species. Yeah.
Thanks.
Just have one question, just so I can, just for clarification. You said you were going to work with the state to put sewer in place. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, it's not a sewer. It's an on-site septic. Like I said, right now,
I don't know if a pipe was coming up that we didn't know about. Okay.
we love that. We
Yeah.
did explore that option, but it's down in Hudson and it's not really viable to get it to the site. So it is an on-site septic system. So there'll be probably individual tanks for each home, and then or perhaps a combination, and then a central pump chamber that pumps it out to the leach fields.
How far in, from 3A, obviously you go up the driveway, how far in is the site, I guess?
The existing homes or the new ones?
Well, I guess,
Yeah, so this is
Both, I
this is
guess.
about 400 feet from the roadway to the beginning of the existing homes. So about another 400 feet to the power lines, and then this area kind of opens up. So 800, 900 feet.
and you have to go for a variance, you said?
We do, because it is in that southern
So,
commercial industrial zone overlay. I think I was trying to sort of research today a little bit, find out more about that zone.
It's right here.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're located. I think that commercial industrial overlay might have been an artifact from when the circumferential highway was being considered, because the state acquired property for it. And obviously that's off the table now. And I don't know if commercial certainly is. I don't know if industrial development is necessarily going to be quick to fill up that area without highway or rail access. Just sort of using my own comparison from across the way in Merrimack, the railroad runs on our side of the river, and the DW highway runs right there too. So that's where we get all of our Budweiser and Elbit and all the industrial that we've got over there. And they insist on having that highway and rail access. Over on this side, it's such a fantastic rural and farmstead sort of layout in the area, but that probably makes it not terribly hot property for industrial uses.
Yeah.
How many acres are undeveloped right now?
How many of the
How many acres?
acres?
Talking about
The total parcel is 40 acres. So, this is probably about 10, maybe, not even, probably 8 is developed. So the remainder is undeveloped.
So you're looking about,
30, 32, something like that of undeveloped.
and how many units are you planning on?
59 new ones is proposed. The lot itself, as far as septic loading, as part of this new septic design, we've done a lot of calculations as far as gallons per day per acre. It would actually support a much higher density. But obviously, with the wetlands and obviously the lot sizing regulations, this is more of a feasible approach.
I think with the new and the old, that'll be somewhere just a little over 100 total units on the property. And I've done a lot of work with mobile home parks with my law firm. I probably represent about 20 or 30 of them in New Hampshire. 100 is kind of a key number that works with the economic viability of it, with the number of people paying rent versus what you got to spend and what you can put away into reserve funds to deal with capital coming up. And when you're smaller than that, it's really common that you see this kind of a situation where the Olsen family had it for a long time, did their best to take care of it, but they were just losing ground. They were constantly losing ground because there was, 40, 42, 38, depending on how many are occupied, people paying rent. And that was providing enough capital to, plow and mow and that sort of thing, but not a lot of extra so they were trying to do all of the maintenance themselves and do all of and that just sort of starts to domino into the challenges. That's why thinking about the economics of this and thinking about what happens when you get to a larger number of units with more rent payers helping, it becomes a much more viable, much more sustainable model for a manufactured housing park.
And just from an investment standpoint of view, if you research development of manufactured housing, it's almost non-existent. I mean, you might find it in Florida or maybe Aspen, Colorado, somewhere very affluent areas where you can charge high rents for the land lease. It's a very difficult undertaking because different from an apartment where you build an apartment complex and you can rent out units to each individual. There's an added layer where we have the infrastructure cost to actually build out the site, but then there's no more. There are dealerships where the average person buys a mobile home and then decides to move it in a mobile home park. So I have to operate a dealership, and that's not essentially what I want to do, but it is the way to provide or actually get the units occupied, where we have to run another business. We advertise, we have a dedicated sales employee that helps them get financing, that gets their extras, their upgrades, shows them the different models, prices it out. So that takes a significant amount of time, and banks typically don't look at this as a cookie cutter type of project. It's going to happen in phases. Ideally, if we are allowed to build this project out, we'd like to do it in 2 to 3 years, but it's all based on demand, and it depends. Getting a manufactured housing loan, believe it or not, is almost or more challenging than getting an actual FHA home loan. So it's a very unique product that we have to work closely with the buyers and the residents. So you don't see a lot of institutional investors or private investors want to jump into this because it's such a long-term payoff, but because we're doing it on site and I'm very close to the community and we're cutting our costs as best as possible. I just want you to know that this isn't typical for the industry. This is something that it will be profitable, but it's a lot of work for what's involved.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, you are developing this to the standards of our manufacturing house park ordinance.
Yes. And with that's very rare that we can develop 10,000 square foot lots and actually economically make this pencil. And it would not work in most places with the cost of land and the cost of infrastructure. This is a unique situation. It can.
Obviously, it's a unique housing market. As I was riding in here and passed by some really nice houses, I thought I'd look to see what's for sale in Litchfield. And there's 2 homes for sale in Litchfield right now. One traditional stick-built home and one manufactured home. And anything else that you want to live in town, you're out of luck. It's a very hot market for real estate. One of the questions that always comes up with a project like this, these are private roads. There will always be private roads. There's no chance that the park could propose that the town take over ownership of park roads. It's just not within the legal structure for how parks operate. So you never have to worry about someone suggesting that you need to plow these roads or deal with the water or sewer infrastructure that's within the park. It's private. It always will be.
Question?
Yeah.
How many bedrooms in these homes, roughly?
They tend to vary depending on what someone wants to buy. A double wide home, they actually make triple and quadruples, but I don't think there'll be any of those in here. But a double wide home could be 3, pretty commonly 3 bedrooms. A single wide could be 2. I don't think there's too many 1 bedrooms around.
Typically 2 to 4 bedrooms. We really want to stay with the double wide model. It's a lot more spacious home, and the lots are conducive to that. And we would like to, if it's economically feasible, build a 2-car garage or a 1-car garage next to the home to give it the feel of an actual single family house with a 2-car parking lot in the front. So the intent is not to make it look like the original park. It won't be single wides crammed in together. This would be open lots that look almost like a ranch style home.
When I think about the number of bedrooms in the homes, I can't stop putting on my own planning board hat and thinking about what impact does that have on school children and taxes and all of that. The advanced economic associates, Russ Tebow's work where he does the projections for New Hampshire on how many school children you're going to apply. He does have a calculation in his study for manufactured housing parks. It tends to be a really low number. Everything except for the traditional stick-built freestanding homes tends to be a really small fraction per unit. I think it's probably 0.6 kids per unit or something like that. Maybe not even that many. It ends up being a really small number, maybe 0.06. I forget. It's a really small number. Obviously, there will be some kids, but you'll also see the tax value of this property going from probably not a whole heck of a lot right now to a real significant contributor to the local tax rolls.
I agree with you that more affordable housing is needed. My grandparents lived in a community like this for decades, so I know how nice they can be. I guess it's difficult because we only have so much land zoned as commercial and industrial, so it's hard to give that up to more residential. But since this lot already has the residential on it, I guess we'll just see what the zoning board says.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the zoning board will have its fair chance to take a look at it. With respect to, the idea of having, land zoned a particular way in town and thinking about sort of that larger master plan approach to things, it still sort of boils down to who owns the real estate and what are they going to do with it. And the back part of this parcel isn't going to be put into industrial development. It wouldn't really be economically feasible to put some industrial development that has to drive trucks through the front part of Olsen's mobile home park to get to the back to be a manufacturing plant or whatever else you might put back there. So it really isn't losing it to development because it's just not available. It's not currently on the market or realistically available for industrial development.
And in my understanding, because I'm looking at all aspects of the site and the industrial road, it was very difficult, if not impossible, to get to the back from that road. So that was a factor looking at that, is that any commercial traffic would have to go through the middle of the park, and that there's kids and things, and that it really just didn't fit for what we thought for the entire site.
This was here before the zone was.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think that the Olsens originally acquired the property in the 40s, and I'm not sure exactly when it started to be a mobile home park. I've got records that say it was a mobile home park in the 50s. I don't know when you did your local planning and zoning. I think most towns kind of started it in the 60s.
This
I wanna say
zone
it
was
was
the
80s.
80s.
This was in the 80s
When this zone
Zone.
district
the zone was created,
yeah.
when the circumferential highway was a thing,
Right.
and a hot discussion.
If anything, yeah, I'd rather see it developed into something like this or townhouses or something than more large lots that are just priced out of people's, a lot of people cannot afford those. So I'd rather see this at least.
A community needs a balance of all different housing types. There's any number of studies you can come up with that say so. And, there's certainly nothing wrong with having larger homes that are more expensive and more affluent. But you also need to have a supply for starter homes and people that are, more workaday, lower income, blue collar folks. It's a great community. It was about a year ago when we began the auction on this property. I've had a chance to meet a lot of the residents there because when they had a problem, they called me. And they're really good folks. They struggle with a little bit of the expenses here and there. And, we'd have to do some repairs on a septic system. I remember there was one fellow there who thought that he was responsible for the problem and it was several $1,000s to fix. And he was just really trying to figure out whether his insurance would pay for it or how could he pay for it. And reminded him that, it's the park's responsibility and never sought payment from him. But he was just a great guy, a veteran. And these kinds of homes are important for folks like that. There isn't, in sort of the hierarchy of housing, there aren't too many steps on the ladder below this one. If you can't sort of succeed in a manufactured housing park, it's usually You get equity for about the same price as an apartment. And so it's a huge opportunity for folks. That is the way they work. They rent the land, they buy their own home, they own it, they get equity in it, they can sell it when they move out. And the modern ones, like you're talking about, the ones that Jeremiah's talking about, target price of $200,000, those actually appreciate, whereas some of the older homes that we've sort of come to think of in a manufactured housing park depreciate. And so it's much more like traditional real estate in sort of the modern manufactured housing park. There's value to them.
And obviously, our master plan, I would recommend taking a look at that and reviewing that for the town, just to get an idea of character and things of that nature. I think that's important when you're doing these types of things. Does anybody have any other questions? I see some people in the gallery. I don't know. Are you abutters, or are you with the project? I'm not sure. No.
My mom is in the butter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do right now, I'm actually going to open it up to public input. Just get the members of the public an opportunity, if they want to respond. This is your opportunity to this conceptual plan. I know it's not necessarily, we don't necessarily do that with a conceptual, but since you're here tonight, I'll give you the opportunity to do that if you want to. If you don't, that's fine.
Sure, as a kid, I grew up right next door.
If you're going to speak, I would recommend coming to the front of the room so we can get you on the microphone. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Sharon Greenhouse.
Good evening.
I live at 3 Josiah Drive in Litchfield. My mom is 17 Charles Bancroft Highway, so that's where I grew up. And I just wanted to say that this plan looks beautiful compared to what we've seen over the years, and I would look forward to having my mom live next door to such a nice plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming in tonight. Sounds like, this is a very interesting project, and it looks like might be something, you decide to come with a site plan or something at some point, we're welcome to have you back, and we can review it and see where it goes. So, but I thank you, unless the board has any other questions. So.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to make sure we hear whatever concerns you have. I don't know if you want to keep those for your records or. So yeah, the objective for Conceptual is always to hear your concerns. So as long as we've heard them.
Well, I have a question. In terms of emergency access, is that going to be an issue? Is what's going on with that in terms of the road or anything there that we need to be concerned with?
Sure. So I don't know all the details of how the engineering is laid out, but obviously in any project like this, you got to consult with the fire department and take their advice and respond to it. I suspect, just from what I know of, I've seen them in other projects, that there's probably going to be some fire hydrants and some other kinds of things like that. And the fire department still won't like the one access road, but it is there now. So
there are also turnarounds here, hammerheads, several ones, and as well as the loop roads are conducive to basically dual access and egress. The land also itself really happens to just lend itself to this type of development. It's very level and flat, and with sandy soil. So as far as engineering goes, site distances, drainage, things like that are all really straightforward.
And I imagine you'll have like a landscape plan or something.
yeah.
What are you proposing for landscaping? I'm just curious.
This is obviously out in the back. So again, as far as visual, road access and things like that, it's going to be really minimal. But this whole buffer is going to be maintained. I believe it's 50 feet around the perimeter. As far as landscaping, each individual lot will probably have its own. And I don't know if we've actually gotten quite that far yet as far as the plan set, but
and upgraded signage, and the entrance will look a lot more clean.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things with the fire department that I think that they'll actually like is there's some road names that are duplicated in the park as it exists now. And so if someone sent you after 16 Darlene Lane, I don't think you'd stand a chance of finding it. And so getting that straightened out with their help obviously will be a good help as well.
Jay, do you have anything else? Any other questions?
No, I mean, I was just gonna add, we had a chance to meet with the applicants. So I think we had a good conversation yesterday. The only just couple of the things I would add is, if I understand correctly, the roads were laid out this way because there was an intent to expand this park in the past. That just didn't move forward. Again, I could be wrong. And just the other thing to note is that the back and the front are dependent because obviously this is where the septic has to go. And that you probably understated the issues that are out there now with DES, but they're not insignificant. I mean, you've got a septic lagoon.
Is this going to be run? I assume this is going to be on public water.
It's on Pennachuck water now.
Water. What about fire hydrants? Anything like that issue been addressed, or I don't know? Have you thought about those?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly am not sure about that. I mean, it will be a private system, Pennachuck will, typically delivers to the main thing, and then, all the infrastructure here will be private. As far as, fire protection hydrants, I know that there is a pond here, which might be viable as far as for a fire pond. Something else we'll explore with the department and see if that's something that will be beneficial. Obviously, anytime you can have a water source nearby is beneficial. So.
Absolutely. I think also repaving the existing roads and making those a little bit more passable for trucks and fire trucks. I think that they would be pretty squeezed to get around some of the areas of the existing park. And although you can't really do a whole lot, but repaving them and making people park in the right places and all that stuff, clean up a little bit of the mess that's around will make it a little bit more navigable as well.
Okay. All right. Anything else? No?
Yeah. Conceptually, I think it looks. Oh, sorry. Conceptually, I think it looks nice. I wanted to let you know the zoning board did deny some townhouses in the northern commercial zone earlier this year. So just be prepared with your variance application. But I think it looks like a nice concept.
Thank you. Thank you for saying so.
The more green space, the better.
Thank you for your time to be
I
here.
just have one more comment. You said it was going to be a private road,
All of the roads are private, yeah.
so your own snow plowing as well.
Yes.
Just to, again, in case there's an emergency and an ambulance has to get in, you're going to have to coordinate the time of the snow plow.
Yeah, you definitely have to do that, but we're already kind of pretty active with the snowplows because everybody here has to go to work and get out, and obviously you have emergency vehicles that have to get in. So parks typically own their own plow equipment and operate them themselves. They don't tend to subcontract out. I always also speak to clients about Green Snow Pro and using those facilities and training to maximize the efficiency with your snow plowing plan. And that would probably be something that makes sense to incorporate into something like this too.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much for your time.
Everybody for coming in tonight, and thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is the zoning and regulation workshop. And I guess I will turn to Jay, I guess.
I have some handouts.
Okay. Got it. With my-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys have my, it's just, you don't have to read it. It's It's just a
I didn't
visual.
see this. Yeah.
I'll explain it.
See
It's all
what
good.
this is? These are the, oh no, this is master plan. Okay,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just a visual on something I found.
okay.
So, I think our goal would be, this is extra, this evening to kind of go through these proposed changes and then ideally vote on which items, if any, we want to move to first public hearing. So just as a reminder, this is the last meeting where we can send something to first public hearing, assuming we want to have two hearings, which we really always do want to do. And again, for everybody's benefit, anything that we send to first public hearing,
You said we don't have a quorum. We have to vote on this?
Well,
got a
we do have a
quorum.
quorum.
We have four? Well,
you got four.
sorry about that.
Sorry. So I mean, just as a reminder, first public hearing, after the first public hearing, you can make substantial changes to a proposed ordinance and then send it to a second public hearing. If you actually make no changes to a proposed ordinance at the first public hearing, you can just vote to put it on the warrant. You don't have to have a second public hearing. But if you do want to make changes, you can. There's still time to do that. Get public input. We could make changes in response to public comments and then send it to a second public hearing. So there's still some time to make changes, but tonight is the last night to vote to put it to a first public hearing, which again is always advisable. So what I did or tried to do was go through, based on my notes, it's always possible that I missed something. And make some changes in response to, I definitely probably missed something. I tried to take the comments in from the last meeting, make changes and, bring these back. I will say there were a few areas where we had a lot of conversation around some issues, but we didn't reach, as far as I could tell, a consensus. So they're still the way that they were. So if it's okay with everybody, I just thought I would kind of move through the packet. So the first one we talked about were amendments to the Floodplain Conservation District. And it was noted by Joan, I think this also came from the building inspector, that there was an oversight in our ordinance. And it appears that we unintentionally left out residential uses from the special exception criteria. So we allowed a special exception to be granted for a non-residential building or structure, but not residential. Again, we think if that was an oversight, so the change is very simply to add existing residential or non-residential buildings and structures. And that seems to be pretty uncontroversial. So let's just conversation with that.
All right.
On that point.
So why don't we do this? We can go to this one and then we'll maybe discuss it. And then if you want to vote to recommend it to go to public hearing, we can do that and then move to the next one, just so we have a
Okay.
if that works.
Yep. Check them off one by one.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to move this to the first public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion to move the floodplain conservation district, section 1100.00 and 1103.00 special exceptions to include residential and non-residential building and structures.
I'll second that.
I have a second. Do I have discussion? All right, all those in favor of approval of this being recommended for public hearing, for the first public hearing, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 400. Okay. So we'll take that one to public hearing. That'll be recommended.
So the next item I will run through, we didn't make any changes at the last work session. We did have some conversations around some things. But I'll run through this and then touch on what I call, at least recall, were some of the points of conversation. So the intent overall of this amendment is to limit warehousing and distribution facilities in substantial portions, I guess I would say, of the town. And it does that by looking at it, by limiting them in different ways in a few different districts. So the first item, or I should say the first amendment, again, this is the same language that we saw last time, would be to prohibit warehousing and distribution as a principal use in the southwestern commercial district. Right now, it is an allowed use. And the way we would change it is, so first of all, this is a change we made in all of the sections. You'll notice under permitted uses, there's language in here that basically said the following uses are permitted, but then it says that large regional shopping type uses such as department stores over 20,000 square feet are not permitted, and anything that isn't listed is not permitted. The reason why this is struck is because what we've done is created a prohibited uses section, just to make it clearer. So that's why those are gone. Moving on to the next page here, warehousing of goods was listed as a permitted use. And in this case, it would be clarified that it is permitted only as an accessory use to permitted uses that are included in the zone. Some of the conversation we had at the last meeting, as I recall, was around, do we put limits as to the size of, how large that warehousing could be as an accessory use? And we had conversation around what is accessory? How do you measure that? And, but again, my recall was that we didn't get to a consensus around a square footage limit. That's certainly still something we could talk about. And then moving on down, as I mentioned before, here there is a prohibited uses section added. And as you can see, warehousing, fulfillment, and distribution facilities are a prohibited use, except as permitted above in the accessory use section. And then we move down the language about large regional shopping type centers or any use that isn't otherwise permitted. Moving on down, in the northern commercial industrial service district, we made the same change. Uses not permitted goes to a prohibited section. In this case, we've amended subsection B to allow warehouses, basically were just allowed, period. There was no limitation on size. So here we're amending this to limit the size of the permitted of a warehouse or distribution facility to 75,000 square feet or less as a permitted use. Transportation terminals, by the way, was struck as a permitted use. There was some vagueness around what that meant. And then we add, I'll back up a little bit. Under conditional uses, we add a new subsection E. And in that subsection, we allow warehouse, fulfillment, or distribution facilities greater than 75,000 square feet, but not to exceed 150,000 square feet. So that's allowed as a conditional use. And then below you can see the conditions, which are relatively, minor, I guess I would say. It has a much larger setback to preserve the character of 3A. So there's a 250-foot setback from 3A. There was a requirement for landscape buffers and screening, and then a pretty standard requirement about not creating undue traffic congestion or hazard. And then once again, as we noted, we have a prohibited uses section. So, and I probably should point to the map just to be clear, but we're talking about this district right here that I referenced. The next district we're going to talk about is right down here. So that's the Southern Commercial Industrial Service District. And here, basically, it's exactly the same change. The language in those two districts really mirror each other. And so we've made the same change, eliminating the first sentence you see struck under permitted uses because that's moved to a prohibited uses section. Under B, we're limiting warehousing and distribution facilities by right to 75,000 square feet. Transportation terminals was struck as a permitted use. And then under conditional uses, we're allowing warehouse, fulfillment, and distribution facilities greater than 75,000 square feet, but less than 150. same criteria that we had before, same prohibited uses section as before. And this amendment is intended to be freestanding. It would just impact those 3 districts that we discussed. It would not impact the northern commercial zone. And that's because we intend to address the northern commercial zone separately, at least at this point.
Right. So I guess we'll stop there at this point. And what is the board take on what we just discussed in terms of the last 3 zones?
So just so I understand it, looks like both northern commercial industrial and the second one you did, southern commercial industrial. If you're 75,000 and under, you can do it.
Yes.
Then you go over to conditional uses, right?
Yes.
And you can go between 75,000 and 150,000.
Yes.
And then prohibited is anything over 150,000.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the same logic you did in this southern commercial as well. Same.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a mirror. And I'm trying to grasp 75,000. Is that a 700 by, what's the, give me an example of a footprint of 75,000. I'm just the math, it's been a long day.
You
700,
could say, I mean, you could say what, 750 by 100.
so 750.
It's pretty, I mean, it's
feet by
a decent
100.
sized building.
Yep.
For sure. So
Okay.
there is no art to a lot of
It's
this,
a big
but
building.
just for kind of reference,
Yeah.
when we were looking at the Barron's site plan, that was 140,000 and change.
Okay.
So that was kind of the upper limit.
So I guess,
Well,
yeah,
Before
go
we
ahead.
move anything, the only thing that I was actually considering is we have all these added things to the northern commercial zone. And most of it makes sense with what's there already. So I think it also makes sense to add some of these things to the southern commercial zone. Same exact language. The convenience stores, breweries, distilleries, wineries.
I
Those things.
agree. My struggle with it was that this amendment was only about limiting warehousing and distribution,
Right.
whereas that's a much broader conversation. What we could do, if we want to go that route, we could create a freestanding amendment for the Southern Commercial District, just like we did for the Northern, and then include that language there. And then have a freestanding amendment that only addresses limiting warehousing and distribution in the northern and southern commercial industrial districts. If
That's
that
what
makes
I'm
sense.
kind of wondering. To me, it makes more sense to say, to keep it grouped by type of change versus the zone, because at least then it's a broader picture. That instead of saying, okay, in each of these zones we want to put these together, and then everybody's going to try and read each one and see what's different about the others. Where instead, if we just say, hey, we want to add this section, prohibited uses, and all the same language to this zone, and this zone. I find that easier to understand as a voter.
I agree, it's easier to understand, but I think with what's going to be coming, maybe with a circumferential highway, maybe exiting, that impacts our economic master plan chapter big time, because that's the cornerstone. The whole design was done, and our transportation. So I think keeping them separate at the moment until we can at least address that. I like your idea of what you have of keeping the commercial industrial kind of in lockstep. The commercials, though, especially the southern one at this moment, because it was part of that circumferential highway. Since Hudson's no longer doing it, we don't know what's happening with that land. But the whole design of this was, our economic chapter was, and hopefully the 75,000 limitation doesn't impact our economic chapter. I just say for now, just to keep it separate. I'm not saying in 6 months to revisit what Kate's talking about.
So is the consensus to have a freestanding amendment for the Southern Commercial District?
At the moment, Just at the moment. Kate, were you trying to merge all three together? The
No,
two
no, I'm just
industrial?
trying to say, if we're making the same change in multiple zones, we should have the warrant should say, we want to make this change to this zone, and this zone.
Yeah, we can say for the two
we
zones,
can do that. So there'd
definitely.
be two zones that the changes are exactly the same.
But I don't know about
Yeah.
Southern Commercial yet until we look at that economic master plan chapter, which was built around that whole circumferential highway
The
law.
reason why I say the changes that we make to the commercial zone, I think makes sense to make to the northern commercial zone, to make those same additions to the southern commercial zone is because if you look at what's permitted in each of those zones, it's already almost
Are they almost the
identical.
same?
Yeah, they're-
Okay, but not all three. I thought you were trying to move the Southern Commercial in with the industrial zones.
No, no, no.
So you're
I'm
saying
just
keep the two industrial zones and then the two commercial zones.
I'm just saying adding these convenience stores, bakeries, drugstores, that sort of thing that we're adding to or we're discussing adding to the northern commercial zone.
I didn't bring my little picture.
Also,
So you want to bring them
also
into the
add
southern.
that to the
Right.
southern because they're already the same.
You're
The
saying it's in
differences
there
are
already.
the southern
look it up.
allows civic centers.
Okay, I thought you were
like
merging the industrial
Yeah,
with the
right.
regular. I would
No,
be
no.
nervous about that now
Yeah.
because
the two
be-
commercial zones. I think should mirror each other.
I have that
think
right
it
here
makes
if I can
sense
look it
to-
up quick. You mind if I just give me a second to remember that picture I gave everybody that worked off your matrix, Kate, there?
So if
Get that.
if that were what the board wanted to do, then what you would be moving forward is the proposed amendments to the southern commercial. Back up to the top. I'm sorry. You'd be moving the proposed amendments to the southwestern commercial district to first public meeting, amended to include the additional permitted uses proposed for the northern commercial district. Does that make sense?
I think so.
That's-
So it end up making northern commercial zone not actually its own warrant, like you had just talked about.
Oh, I see what you're saying. We would be voting to create an item that would make the same changes to both districts.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yep.
and now I just have to double check that the warehousing part of it was the same. I don't.
It was.
There's no warehouses in the northern.
No, there's a
commercial, right?
difference. In that, in the northern commercial, and this is a subject to change, but in the northern commercial district, we proposed allowing warehousing and distribution as a conditional use because the thinking was that the accessibility to there was better highway accessibility in the north. And in the
Right.
southern commercial district, we proposed only allowing warehousing and distribution as accessories.
Okay.
So
That's
we
right.
could
Okay.
change
makes
that
sense.
to make them both parallel each other. If that was the will of the board, then we could certainly do that.
I think we should, or I agree with what we had said originally, that it makes sense in the northern because of the access to the airport.
Right.
Because if we add more warehouse or larger warehousing or allow larger warehousing in the southern, southwestern, you'll just be getting that truck traffic up and down 3A.
Right. That was the
Want to
thinking.
avoid.
That's exactly what the thinking was.
So all I'm saying is that these extra services that we were considering the northern commercial zone, that having its own warrant article and saying we would like to make this change to both the northern commercial and the southwestern commercial zone.
Okay.
I'd like to look at my matrix more before I agree because I'm seeing some things that are a little different between northern commercial and southern commercial.
Then you can still accomplish what you want to accomplish.
I agree, but
just
let me
make
just
it as
look
two
at it
separate
more.
items, and that way there's also the potential for someone to say, "Gee, I agree with these in the northern commercial district, but I don't agree with these in the southern."
Right, you would lock yourself in.
So we just keep them. We just make them two separate items, even
Okay.
though we'd be making the same changes.
And then make amendments
Yeah.
at the first public hearing as needed. Okay.
But I
That
think
makes
if
sense.
that's the intent of the board, I
Right.
think we could get enough of a sense to know what we're putting to the first public hearing.
I mean, did you want to make a motion, Kate, to that? Or?
I just want to make sure there's no more questions or anything.
So just so I understand, we're gonna have the two merged for the industrial and then separate for north and south for now,
Yes. Right.
until we make sure this ties, that matrix we made, right? Make sure we didn't leave anybody out.
Right.
And with your idea that it could be a little bit different, I agree.
Yeah.
Make sure that motion is real clear because
Right, I just want to make
Lost me
sure I'm not
somewhere.
using an old copy.
Oh, so we
of
had to
Jay's.
word the motion better?
Okay.
Just draw it.
It's in the new copy too.
Okay. Yep, that's what I wanted to find the newest copy, so I
Yeah.
wasn't reading some old language by accident. And this is only for, this would only be then for the southwestern
Right.
zone right now. And, okay. Okay.
So basically,
Was that,
it's adding the changes proposed for the northern commercial zone in section 801 to the proposed amendments for the southwest commercial zone.
in the southwest commercial zone, the original one that you presented tonight just adds the prohibited uses and clarifies warehousing of
Right.
goods as an accessory.
So we
permitted
keep
use.
all that, we keep the language with that what is currently proposed there, and we would add to it the additional permitted uses proposed for section 801 in the northern commercial zone.
Okay. Is this prohibited uses section, that's added to other zones too though, right?
It is, but it's not all the same.
Okay, all right, so it does make sense to keep each zone separate.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay then, so did anyone else have any other questions or anything or to discuss?
I'm slower than the rest of them, sorry. I'm in 801 right now, just looking at the red ones you added. You added the red, right?
Yes.
And we're keeping this as standalone, right?
Yes.
Okay. Convenience stores. Yeah, you didn't deviate. This is the same from last time.
Same from last time.
No, looks good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move forward the Southern Commercial District changes as written and adding the language to section 701 to allow for convenience stores, breweries, distilleries, and wineries, professional offices, including medical, dental, legal, accounting, real estate, and other similar professional services, healthcare facilities and services, including urgent care facilities, personal services and offices, including barbershops, hair and nail salons, tailors, dry cleaning, and other similar services, drugstores and pharmacies with or without health, beauty, grocery, and other convenient product sales, bakeries and confectionery shops with on-site retail sales, contractor services, including plumbing, heating, electric, carpentry, landscaping, and other similar services, health, athletic, and fitness establishments, including yoga, dance, and martial arts studios, boxing gyms, and other similar establishments. And those are the same that we're adding or considering adding to the northern commercial zone.
those are in the northern commercial zone. Oh,
So you're
That's
adding
the
them
red.
to-
Right.
Right,
Right,
the
right,
red, that's it.
okay.
Yep,
And you're adding them to the southwestern.
right.
yes.
701.
To keep it consistent
And
with
what
both the
about
commercial
Q?
zones.
You need Q. You went to J.
Right,
You got Q there,
not
right?
including Q.
Okay.
All right. Does everybody understand the motion? All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do I have discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion to recommend this to public hearing, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 4-0-0.
Great. So I'm going to move on now to the proposed amendments for the northern commercial district. Which got It looks more complicated. So when you look in your packet, there's just a few things that I've added. First of all, in the draft that you saw previously, I only included select portions of the language in the ordinance for the northern commercial zone. I focused on what was changing, not everything. This time in the draft, you see everything. And the reason for that is because when I started to look at some of the comments that came out of the last meeting, I realized that some of the issues that we raised are in fact addressed in the current ordinance. They just weren't in the draft in front of us. So I'm just going to kind of walk through this a little bit. So the first thing that you see, Section 801 boundaries, I just put that in there for the sake of completeness. But Section 800.02 and 3 are really pretty significant in that one. Section 800.02 just really clarifies that everything does come to site plan review. While we know that, I think the language is just helpful to realize that it's in there. But particularly significant is Section 800.03, performance standards. And again, this is in our existing ordinance. And importantly, there's A, which just talks about all activities have to be conducted in a way to minimize negative environmental impacts. And B, which says that all non-residential uses shall be compatible in character, scale, and design with existing developed properties in close proximity and abutting the proposed development. Within a development project, site design elements should be compatible with small New England village character and the town's agricultural history. Applicants must submit building elevations and landscaping plans to the planning board for review as part of their site plan application. So there's already language that talks about the importance of having that village character, the importance of design. So I just thought that was important to emphasize. But one of the things we did talk about was moving this language. The language, the following statement is in blue. By the way, everything that was shown as a change in the last draft is shown in red. Everything that's been added since our last meeting, I'm showing in blue, just so we can be clear. So I just add, this section was this language that you're seeing here in blue. The planning board shall determine whether building design is compatible with mixed commercial, residential, and historic character of the area. That was in the special exception, or I'm sorry, in the conditional use criteria. And I moved it up here to make it clear that that applies to everything. So that was one of the discussion points. C, again, is already there. And then we had talked about sidewalks.
Mr. Charbonneau, I know the last meeting we talked about sidewalks, and I know you were going to go before the Board of Selectmen. I think Kate was at that meeting. Anything from that? What happened? Or
They wanted to see if it got approved. They would back it up basically if it got approved.
if it got approved by the,
Approved through the-
or here recommended by the planning board? Okay, just curious.
Recommended by the planning board and the state, everybody approved it.
Okay.
The town voters approved it. It's fine.
Okay.
So this was a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to read through how I wrote it, and hopefully this meets the intent. Sidewalks shall be required along at least one side of Route 3A to facilitate the development of an interconnected walkable village environment and to connect existing and proposed commercial uses to the Albuquerque Avenue multi-use path. Where construction of a building for multifamily residential or non-residential use, or alteration and rehabilitation of existing residential or non-residential structure is proposed, construction of a sidewalk not less than 6 feet in width shall be constructed along the entire length of frontage along Route 3A in a location to be determined by the planning board. Where the planning board determines that construction of a sidewalk is not needed due to the presence of a suitable existing or planned sidewalk on the opposite side of Route 3A, the board may require payment in lieu of construction to facilitate completion of the sidewalk network.
Okay.
Moving on down to permitted uses.
I'm just
Go ahead.
curious, have you seen language like that before, or is this something, if we were to move this forward, should we actually be looking at like asking legal to make sure that we can?
Certainly could. I see no reason why you can't. I mean, requiring sidewalks is pretty common, and requiring in lieu of is also pretty common.
The payment, okay.
What's
that's what I
different
wasn't
here
sure
is
about.
that we're specifying it's 3A, and we're specifying, we're addressing the issue of we really want it on one side and we want it to cross, but we don't. I didn't want to specify that, get that specific. Could always ask for legal input, but I think it's definitely within, the authority of the town to make this request.
Okay.
Before we move on to sidewalks, I just want clarification. So this is new construction. If somebody's already there, are we going to force them
No.
to go back? Okay, just want to make sure. How do we make sure it has continuity, like the same look and feel, like the same DOT procedures or standards or?
Well, they're gonna come for site plan review.
Yeah.
The town engineers, once someone proposes something, you're gonna have to continue, just like Albuquerque.
We just want it to have the same look and feel. We don't want somebody to do one look and somebody come up and does another.
It's like
Okay.
Albuquerque. I mean, Albuquerque got built in pieces all along the way, and it's pretty consistent
Okay.
all the way through.
I want to make sure of that.
You guys have every right.
Oh, yeah.
to make it.
I went and looked at all our master plans for sidewalks. It was amazing what I found of the continuity that we want, how it's for, not just recreation, but health, but safety, the whole thing. It's in our master plan by every chapter. There's only one section that I think is odd, which is we're going to get to later on the economics, but again, that's upended with what's happening on Circumventual Highway. But no, there's no denying that sidewalk should go. And also, I just want to say just quickly, when we were at NRPC the other day and Janet Langdell from Milford was speaking.
Yeah.
She said two things happen when they go for grants for sidewalks, that either the Board of Selectmen, after you get onto the 10-year plan and you're accepted, you get the grant money potentially. Sometimes the Board of Selectmen doesn't put it on the warrant articles, and that's for different reasons, or it gets on there, but the town can't match the 20% and they lose the entire sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good financial way to go as well.
Agreed.
Just gonna
Yeah.
force everybody.
Yep. So, yeah,
Sadly, that
But
keeps
this, I
happening in
was-
Milford.
I think our zoning ordinance is a little behind our master plan.
If you really look at Albuquerque, the town paid for 3 sections of Albuquerque. From Westview Drive to Meadowbrook, that section. And then they paid from
Yes, and Keg,
Nesson to the other side of
Dara.
that, through the swamp through there. And from, what's the Hidden Creek, just the bridge crossing right there, a small piece right there. Those are the only 3 pieces that the town actually
Yeah.
paid for.
Is
Yep.
that because
So
there wasn't development across those?
what?
Is that because there wasn't development across those pieces?
Yeah, there was nothing, no development. Nobody, because that was from the fire station down, that never got developed, and all the streets were already developed out here, all the way came to the end.
Yeah.
So that Albuquerque came after that.
Okay.
And then again, it was through the wetland, under the power line.
That's the Rowan section.
Yeah.
Great. That makes sense.
That everybody used to drive through there.
On dirt.
Just a dirt road, but everybody drove through there because it was a shortcut. And then they finally built it.
So moving on down to permitted uses, section 801. And the only change I made in the beginning there was just adding the word walkable. That's not really critical, but I added it. So nothing else I proposed changing here. Everything that you see in red, we saw the last time. And really moving on down, there are no further changes that I made to this section. Including, we still have the language about allowing warehouses as a conditional use. Nothing else changed.
Okay. Any questions?
Just the discussion about a light or where a light would go if we needed a light is not here. That's another discussion.
That'd be a
Just making sure.
definitely a discussion.
That's-
Just
that's gonna
sidewalk.
be a DOT
Yeah,
Yeah.
topic thing.
okay.
And it could be a roundabout instead of a light.
Good idea.
I would hope so, yeah.
Um,
We don't need a
Yeah.
traffic light in Litchfield, right?
Let me just do one more read on that, see if anything sticks out, but it looks okay. Is this trying to, almost the wording is it'll be on either side. We're gonna have part on this side and part on this side, depending on where they
That was
build.
really the thinking, is it would kind of start on the western side and then move to the eastern side.
So it might not be contiguous on one side.
No, I don't think it will be.
Okay, so it's not envisioning a bike path or even walk path, but it's
I think,
safety. Yeah.
right, but I would say the bike, the walkway will go on the side of Morse Falls down to the proposed gas station. And I would say it's gonna cross and go all the way down on that side of the road. So I think there'll only be one crossing, to me.
Yeah.
That's all I see. There's one crossing yet.
Because you got the new residential development potentially coming in at the horse farm. It makes sense to start on that side. And then obviously at some point you got to cross to get to the Albuquerque path.
I think the Board of Selectmen were excited. It was like almost envisioning extending the bike path down Albuquerque going down. But that's okay. But again, if I explain all of this is in your plan to, but again, it's safety is really the issue here too. Yeah. Okay.
Anyone want to recommend this to go to first hearing?
Well, does this include? We're not talking about the mixed-use village development
No,
yet.
we kept that, at this point, we
Totally
kept that as a
separate.
separate amendment.
I think we should keep that separate. Clear.
So once this is voted on now to go to public hearing, for the sidewalks, anybody that comes in with a site plan has to live by it, right?
They can't do anything contrary, that's right.
Yeah.
Once it's voted,
Once
By-
once it's posted,
it's posted.
Yeah.
Once it's posted, and you're gonna be posted after tonight.
that's right.
Perfect.
Interesting.
That's a good point.
That's a very good point.
Post it real fast.
Should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
Thought it was in March that it started. Potentially. Let's see. Right, so nothing has changed here.
Right.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move this forward as written for the northern commercial zone.
Okay, and to public hearing.
To public
First
hearing.
public hearing.
First public hearing,
Okay.
yes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, do I have discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving Northern Commercial Zone to first public hearing, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 4-0-0. Okay. Moving on.
So moving on to the mixed use proposal. So this amendment would amend the Northern Commercial District to allow or to provide for a new conditional use, which would be mixed use residential development, commercial residential development. So a couple of changes here that you're going to that you see in blue. The reason you don't see red is because everything in black was new last time. So the only changes that you're going to see are in blue. So a couple of things here. One really didn't necessarily, wasn't something that we discussed, but I kind of took this directly from some of the information that Kate provided. and just thought mixed use village development sounded a whole lot better than planned residential commercial development. I'm not wedded to that, but I think what we were trying to get to that mixed use village concept. And so I think this kind of just said it better. So that change happened throughout. That's really one of only 2 changes. Again, we really didn't talk about that, but that's just kind of what I thought made sense. The only other change proposed here to what we saw last time is adding a requirement for not less than 20% of the site area has to be dedicated to open space or green space. We didn't have any requirement previously. 20% was what came up last time, so that's what I put in. I will say, just for the benefit of anybody listening, what this would do is allow for mixed residential commercial development on sites within the district that are 5 acres or larger. And it does allow single family, 2-family, and multifamily residential development. And there is a requirement that it does include commercial development, not less than 100 square feet of commercial space per unit, with the idea of being that these would be mixed use and they would be fiscally positive or at least neutral. They would have a net positive fiscal impact to the town. That's what I got.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Any questions?
Just for interest.
I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
At the start of all of these conversations, I did not like the idea of putting any residential in the commercial zone because we have such just such small amount of land that is yet to be developed. And I think a big reason why it hasn't been developed is because it's zoned commercial. So we didn't like the idea of expanding the residential zone into that zone. But as we've talked about this, I'm starting to see that this could be a positive for the town. I'm still not sure that this is ready, though. I don't know if I can stand up in front of people at town meeting or and say this is definitely it. That's the only thing I'm nervous about, because this would change this for the entire zone, which means all of that land close to the river could also be developed as these mixed use villages. And I don't think that is what the intent should be. I think it should be centered around 3A and leaving those spaces off of Charles Bancroft open for less traffic generating commercial development.
One possibility, if there was
so
a
far.
general consensus around that, if there were a consensus around that, and I totally appreciate the sentiment that it might not be ready, that it might require more conversation. But one option is to simply put in a requirement that it's limited to parcels east of 3A. That is a possibility.
That's what I'm wondering, if it should it be an overlay district?
What is the difference between an overlay and, is there a difference, mixed use?
Well, an overlay, basically, you could construct it that way instead of a conditional use. But generally, an overlay assumes that everything that's allowed in the underlying zone is allowed, subject to whatever additional requirements you put in the overlay. So that's why the wetlands is an overlay, aquifer is an overlay, floodplain is an overlay for that reason.
Like, I almost see this more as a continuation of the multi-housing overlay.
The big
That would
difference being
expand- I
that
guess
this
there's
is
not-
mixed use.
Right. I guess there's not commercial right in that northern piece, the very northern piece, that's residential. Is that right?
That's right. So
That
the
would expand
overlay,
the
right, so the
commercial
overlay
into that.
allows you to do multifamily within the overlay district, whether the underlying zone's commercial or residential. It doesn't require you to.
Is that where
Right.
the horse
Okay.
farm is? Is that?
Yeah, the horse farm is in actually the northern commercial zone and but within the overlay.
Within the overlay, yeah. Okay. So, Kate, is it that you think there should be more like vetting or more research done on it, or what's?
It's concerning that we've only had one member of the public here for all of these workshops.
Mhm. Okay.
I feel like we've come up with pretty close to as good as we can get in this group, but there's not enough. I'm afraid if this were to show up on the ballot, the immediate reaction would be no way, because there's not enough knowledge and understanding around it. And at this point, I don't feel like we've vetted it enough to definitely be able to stand up and say, yes, we think this is right for the town. I'm not sure that.
Yeah,
there's enough input.
I would need to do a little more research, especially reread the economic development master plan chapter, because it explains why these were divided, build out number of how we were trying to do the tax base, not just to be all residential, but also business, just to reread that, see if it's still applicable. So I would need to look at that. That's also in one of the master plan chapters as well. Yeah, I still think more conversations needed around this. I think it's a lightning rod at the moment, unless you can build a case for it.
Like I'm starting to get behind it, even though I was completely opposed at the beginning.
Mhm.
And so what I don't want to happen is to put this forward and it immediately get shut down without really being able to understand how this could be a positive for the town.
One option certainly is to put it to first public hearing and see if we get input.
yeah.
And then you could always decide not to move it forward after that point. But I totally see how you might not be comfortable taking it to first hearing.
Right, because we started the conversations about warehouses and then it turned into.
Yeah, right. No, I understand.
I'm not saying shelve this. I'm saying keep working
Keep
on this.
working on
Yes.
it.
Don't
Exactly.
shelve it. We just we're running out of runway, I know, but we can still keep going in January and February on this to keep it
Doesn't
going.
matter to me.
Huh?
Doesn't matter to me.
Well, you're the one person coming forward that's helping
Yeah,
here,
but-
and we appreciate it.
Nobody, you're never
True.
gonna get anybody else because there's really
Yeah.
no other land up there, pretty much, other than what I have.
We did get one letter.
We did.
We did.
We did.
That's true. And it
At
was
the last
in
meeting.
favor,
Oh, from
right?
Jason, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've added a lot of things that weren't in there.
Yeah.
You know, some of it's still not gonna be built on without some of this change here.
Mhm.
Just because brick and mortar is dead.
Right.
To a big degree.
So, I mean, we can certainly, as Jay said, we can certainly put it to first public hearing. If at that point you guys still feel that, or if we don't get any, I don't know what we're going to get for public hearing, but if we get something or if we don't, then at that point, if you want to, say that you want to work more on it or do something with it, you can certainly do that as well. Or we could say we're not going to put it forward yet. I guess that's another possibility as well. So,
We have time, anytime, if we wanted to work harder on this.
You've got so we can make substantive changes after the first public hearing. So, but you'd have to put it to a second public hearing, which we ordinarily do anyway. So you would have how many days? We'd have to have the language
You have to post it
posted
10 days ahead.
10 days ahead of the second public hearing, and the second public hearing would be
You're going to first on the 18th, first public hearing on the 18th?
just look at my calendar. So Yeah, I think our first public hearing is on the 18th. I have to look at I haven't looked at the municipal association calendar, but let's just say our next public hearing would be on the 1st of February. If that's all, I'd have to double check. But basically, you at the first public hearing, you can propose changes to the language and then vote to send that to second public hearing. So basically, you have between now and the 18th to make those decisions.
Certainly up to you guys. What do you want to do? I mean, it's the will of the board.
I do need to double check though the dates with the municipal association just to make sure we've got all the last right dates. Right now, you're just voting to send to first public hearing or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And we could send it to first public hearing and then pull it
Yes.
from there too.
If you feel that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if the next couple weeks is enough time, but I don't have a problem moving it forward just for the sake of continued discussion.
Okay.
And the problem is the majority of input that I hear is no change. Like nobody wants to see anything developed. So the fact that it's zoned so that it doesn't allow for much, doesn't make it reasonable to develop it, everybody seems to be happy with that. So, but I know I don't know everybody in town either. So
Okay.
I just don't want to push something forward that I can't say like, yes, I think this is exactly what is needed, because I don't
And,
know that
you know,
that's being a public servant as you should
If you put it to first public hearing, it will give you an opportunity. I mean, if you wanted to continue to do research on it or something, we could do that in the interim as well. And if you still don't feel comfortable, then we would have to vote, obviously.
I'd still want to look at the economic algorithm they came up with in that chapter, because it was about the tax base. I mean, if we send it out and then we want to revise it later, it almost says, I almost give everyone a heart attack looking at this verbiage, right?
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So you're setting the
Like
tone
blindsiding
without us
people
doing
on the
research on it. Then, so if that happened and they come in, it's probably just going to be you. But if they come in, and then you have the data to back it up, it still might be a harder sell than if it was presented.
How are you gonna get the data to back?
Well, I want to look at the chapters to see why there was some reasoning of the tax base in those chapters, why it was divided up. And the build out of the number of lots still available in the residential section might be why they're going to say, why do we need more houses there? We still can build, I'm making up a number, 500, 600 more homes, so this is the stuff we have to be ready to answer.
January
Right.
4th.
How are you gonna come up with the economic value without?
I'm not giving it a dollar value, I'm just coming up with how they were thinking of why they said commercial in certain areas. There were projections in there with sewer, without sewer, who would, be there.
7th.
I'm just saying for us to just educate ourselves on that. That's all.
But you still have to show a fiscal impact study to build the product.
Mhm.
And how are you gonna get a fiscal impact study without, you're not gonna, to get comfortable with it, to say this does without the developer doing that? How are you gonna come up with those values?
It's not
Yeah.
just the fiscal
Yeah,
impact,
that's
it's
right,
also, I'm just not sure that we've thought of everything, where I think it was Jason Brennan that mentioned
Right.
the concern about
They did the work, so-
that this should only really be centered along 3A, because otherwise now the Barron's property could be
Need verbiage.
all townhouses, which I don't think the majority of town would support,
But you still have to build 100 square feet. per
Right.
unit.
But we also,
You're not gonna,
Yeah.
you can't build it would have to tie into the whole unit. So you would still have to build some commercial down.
Unless they
there
want to do it the 11th.
And the
In case it's,
master
Good
plan
special meeting.
says it really doesn't want a bunch of commercial mixed in with the residential. So that would go against what the master plan says, not along 3A, because that's where, your storefronts and things are. But if we were to put a new neighborhood back behind St. Francis that's now generating all kinds of traffic, plus stores or restaurants or something, if that were to go in now that all these townhouses or so are here, I don't think that that's what's best for that neighborhood up there. I think a warehouse that generates less traffic, even though it's trucks, there's ways to mitigate and kind of keep the noise down with that. So that's where I'm just not sure that this is ready yet. I don't have a problem moving it to first hearing and seeing if we can vet these out before town meeting this upcoming year.
Yeah, everything's, if it gets
I just don't want
shut
to,
down, then we can't relive it.
and that's the other thing. I don't want to put it in front of everybody and it immediately get shot down. Because I'm starting to think that there's something here.
you're
I-
never gonna
yeah.
know. You're never gonna know till you get it to the voters anyway. You can have all the meetings like this you want, discuss it all you want, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be the.
Well, I just told them the 18th, I didn't hear back from them.
But what I'm hearing from you is that as long as you would have to be comfortable enough to say, this is something that
I think
you want
the hearing
to
is
happen.
going to be
You're
enough for
comfortable.
them.
Right.
You're talking
I'm
about
not-
comfort
It's
level
not
in
gonna be
terms
public,
of.
it's going to be.
I'm not sure that I am confident enough in it to be able to sway people's perceptions.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing in your favor that I would, because we're trying to think of all sides, is I think it was said at NRPC, one of the meetings, that home occupancy, the working permit part of it is up because people are working out of their homes more. Not, but that would help if you're building homes. I'm just saying. So we need to just look at the whole thing. I'm not comfortable enough where I can have an argument saying yes or no. That's me at this moment. We can vote on it.
I've at least
Because
moved
I
to the
like the fact- I
maybe.
wanna-
I was originally no.
Because I want to match the
Maybe.
master plan too, because we're trying to keep them in sync. Not that we can't think outside the box as well, but
How old is the master plan?
the economic chapter is 2002, I believe.
Yeah.
But when
So
this,
that's
but until we change it because of that circumventional highway, that's that's the model.
No, but-
I agree to that. It's all coming together at one point. I agree.
A lot of work to do.
We need to update it.
I agree. I've been pushing that rope uphill for a long time.
So I'm not saying no. I'm not saying this is not it. I don't think,
Needs more.
I think it needs a little bit more at least. So does anyone else have any other thoughts?
I mean, I have no problem, and we can. It's as is the will of the board. If you guys want to put it to first hearing and then come back again, or if you want to not do that and just say we're not comfortable with it, whatever you guys want to do. I mean, first hearing, like I said, I think what Jay's saying, first hearing. I mean, you're just going to get comment. I don't think we're going to get anybody, except Mr. Charbonneau, but it's the opportunity to give notice to the public and get there. If they are interested in, this, they can certainly come and make comments.
Have we ever done this in the past on something we weren't 100% confident or close to confident and then say, it almost seems like,
Again,
it seems
if you
like a
don't
work in
have, I mean, you
progress.
don't, I mean, as I said, it's the will of the board. If you're not comfortable.
If we come to the
I say
conclusion
don't
it
do
is,
but if
we want to fight for it,
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say definitely no on it. If there's an opportunity to continue the conversation, I think we need to do that. Since I do know that I think there needs to be some restriction on the parts of the northern commercial zone. How would I do that? Can I add some language limited to parcels
You
along
could,
3A?
depending on how you wanted to do it. If you felt that they should be only east of 3A, that would be easy. Then that would be moving to send it to first public hearing with the amendment that it's limited to the east side of 3A, and then I would stick that in as a criterion.
Okay.
So I would make that, I haven't decided which number, but it'd be one of these numbers under the conditional use criteria. But that might not be what you're thinking. You might be thinking,
Well,
within
yeah,
this-
all of Mr. Charbonneau's plans are for the east side. So I guess if I'm worried about limiting it, there's no harm in keeping it on the east side. I'm just thinking of what properties are up there right now. Because my original intent was either side, especially if there's if the bike path were to be extended. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I just, I'm seeing that things can be subdivided into smaller and smaller units and more potential homes. And I just think the wording is alarming. Is that the areas up there here?
Yeah, these were the larger undeveloped sites. I can't guarantee that these are every one of them. These were the ones that were shown in the last presentation. Right now, the language limits, you can only do this on parcels of 5 acres or larger.
So you're gonna have a bunch of 5-acre homes, is what we're.
No, it means that you can't do it on a smaller lot. So in other words, the number of parcels that you can do this mixed use development on are limited.
But if you keep subdividing and all that.
You can't do more. So if you're proposing one of these developments, you can create smaller lots within that development, but that's not something that you just keep doing more developments on. You can create smaller lots within a development.
You have to combine lots to get to the 5 acres.
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess it sounds like there's a lot of questions. I think you guys seem to be, you're not, I know it doesn't sound like you're ready to take it to first hearing.
No, I'll be honest, I was pleasantly surprised on Sidewalks what I found.
Yeah.
I didn't really do a deep dive on this yet. But I'll let the data tell me what I see. But I think conversations have to happen.
Okay.
With everybody involved. I just find it, I don't want to send something, it's my opinion, partially to the voters to say, because then if nothing's changed, they're going to think this is coming as a warrant article, right? And they'll say, why did you pull it? If nobody comes in, and then, we still have a chance to pull it, right? Say nobody comes in. And then we look at this and we say, do we really want to send it, yes or no? And we're still saying we want to research it, so.
Right. Well, you're going to have to do that. So after the first public hearing, you're going to have to take a vote on each of the amendments to decide whether you want to move it forward. So that'll have to happen either way.
And we would have more board members here too.
Well, that was another thing I was thinking as well. I mean, we don't have a full board here. There are members, maybe to get more input. Yeah. I'll give them the opportunity.
Is there another town that does this that we can maybe look at what they do too, or is this unique?
No, there's a
wording here.
number of towns that have some sort of mixed use development, including, a Merrimack,
Just for comparison. That's
just for mentioning today, but there's a number that do. It's called different things, but.
So it's not a blank piece of paper. We have something. We can critique it. We can add to it, right? I don't want you to think we're going to drop this. Because we shouldn't drop this. I don't think we should drop it.
think it's.
but I think it needs
No,
some
when
help.
when you ask people what they want, how they want the town to change, most of you are gonna say, we don't want to do anything. So it doesn't matter, you know, no, any subdivision anywhere, nobody wants it to go, but they're here, so they don't want anybody else in. You know, we all got here because our land, somebody subdivided a piece of land, and we got to buy it, and they came, and so you're always gonna have that pushback. Nobody wants anything to change. It's gone.
Right.
It's what happens. You know, some way, somehow, it's gonna change. So the best thing is for the planning board, the board members to come up with, they think is the best way for that change to happen. Because that's, the only way it's gonna come forward is through you guys. It's not, everybody else will say do nothing.
And I think there'll be, if you continue to research this, then maybe become more comfortable with it at some point. I think you'll probably know at that point and say, okay, I'm ready to make that, that
Yeah.
leap. So,
See what other
Um,
towns have done too, and how they sold it.
so, I have no problem continuing to look into this and, to vet it and whatever you guys want to do. I certainly think, it's a start. It's a, something to go move forward. But I know you guys want to take the opportunity to.
You know, it's no different than the fields in front of my house. I could come in with a plan next week to subdivide them and build houses. I'm not gonna do that,
Right.
But nobody wants that to happen either. I don't want it to happen, Nobody wants any of the farmland, but someday it's gonna happen because it's own residential. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Farmers are gonna, they're gonna go away as time goes on. It's not, it's just a fact unless we get, I hope the farmers stay forever. But they're not, it's a dying breed. It's literally a dying breed. We're fortunate to have Wilsons, and Wilson seems to be expanding it. Prior to them coming in with those bonds, I heard they had some of their property for sale. That was just, as it turned out, was a rumor. But, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully they keep farming. I just hope we don't get solar farms. I don't like them. Myself, personally.
Yeah.
I think they're ugly as can be. But
I do think, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
But
mean to
there
interrupt.
are gonna be places where we're probably gonna end up with solar farms because they're gonna be in floodplain areas, fields that are floodplain. They can keep them up, they're not gonna have any really impact on the floodplain, and we're probably gonna see something.
Possible.
I am glad to see that if it's any expansion of the residential district, that it is smaller homes. Because I do think we need more diversity in town. So if there is going to be change, at least that's smaller size.
We do need affordable housing, we do need something that's cheaper, no different than the guys that came tonight with the trailer park.
Right.
There's a need for it, there's a need for people, my employees have a very tough time, for anybody, where do you work and live and buy a house in this town for $500,000? And think somebody else can't be the firefighters, the police, everybody, it's not.
You better be at the hearing for that then. You better be at the hearing for, that's exactly what we've been saying all these years.
It seems like phase one, get over the shock.
Right.
Phase two, build a case
There are
for it, right?
a few people in our neighborhood, where it seems
So
like
this is a shock.
it's only the ones that can build it.
And we've been looking at this for a while, so I can imagine someone who hasn't. And then, so,
We need to discuss dates because we just realized can't go the 18th because first public hearing has to be the 17th or before, so
17th is the last day.
we're proposing the 11th for the hearing for this stuff.
But you could have a special meeting.
Is
That's
that
what would
the
have to be,
special meeting? Is that for all of this then? It would have to be.
What?
For
The-
each
Well,
of these first public?
Yeah, the
Oh.
last day, I checked the municipal association website, the last day to hold a first public hearing is the 17th. So we can't
Okay.
do the 18th, it's what we're originally thinking. The 4th is really cutting it close and we've got a big agenda on the 4th. So
Okay.
we're hoping that the board would be okay with doing a special meeting on the 11th.
Let's check.
And then you have the 18th as well. So 3 meetings in January. Can you do it?
Personally, I think that would work well because the GMS meeting is also on the 18th.
Okay.
And I think there should be planning board representation there, but also this is important for every member to be at.
Right.
Well, there's a big meeting here on the 18th too.
Oh, and there's that many more site plans and things coming in already. It's the start of the year.
I mean, unless we did push, see if they wanted to go on the 11th. Although we probably don't want to do that. That's going to be a big meeting.
Yeah.
We anticipate that there will be a lot of interest in the meeting we were planning for the 18th.
Okay.
Okay.
The room is
Good to know.
booked on the 11th, I think, here.
What?
The room is booked. It looks like it has Heritage, 7:30, the Recreation Commission's here.
It's coming in the 18th.
8, you needed it the 11th, you said, right?
Oh, it's fine.
Oh, he
So-
just wanted to get the application accepted, but he had traffic waivers. I don't know.
Yeah, plus it's going to be about it, so.
Yeah, those will be notified. So the 11th,
So you
Well-
want to do a special meeting
on the
on
11th,
the 11th?
I mean, recreation could go to the fire station, like conservation gets bounced over there with this camera.
Would they be able to do that with the,
Well, we could find out.
do you know, Matt, if that would be possible to do that? I don't know if you're,
We
The
could,
capabilities to move over to the fire station?
not
Rusted.
this meeting, but the recreation, like we get moved.
Yeah.
to conservation.
Should be no problems.
Should I call Russ, ask Russ?
He'd be the most knowledgeable, but since we've already had the precedent of filming meetings in there before, I don't think there'll be a problem. It's just, the fire department does require some notice and a
Okay.
form to be filled out to use. the
And we'll
room.
have to get a hold of recreation, okay.
So Joan, if you want to touch base with fire department and
And recreation.
recreation. So that's going to be, obviously be noticed. Do we need a motion to do that, a special meeting?
No, it's up to you.
Well, you didn't,
We haven't said anything on this.
Setting a
we
special
make
meeting
him-
is up to you as chair,
Yeah.
in other words.
Okay,
You
so,
don't need to
it-
vote on that.
you don't
We do
need
vote
to-
we do need to decide what to do with the northern commercial
yes,
zone.
right, no, I understand. Okay, so what are we going to do? You want to have a first hearing or not?
I'll make a motion for a first hearing for this mixed-use village development amendment to the northern commercial zone, including language that it only applies to those lots along 3A.
along 3A or east of 3A?
Along 3A.
Along
Okay.
3A.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? No? Okay. Well, I don't have a second,
So,
so
yeah, then the motion fails.
fails, yeah.
Okay.
All right. What about a motion to I guess, table this, or how would we?
You don't even need a motion to table it.
To do
just
that,
does it in
yeah.
advance.
So I guess we'll just
Next workshop, right?
table it, well, the next workshop.
Well, I don't know what the dates are.
You don't have, you don't.
18th
we
or
don't have
whatever
one.
day.
Year
Oh, no, yeah,
You're talking, you'd now be talking about next year.
next year.
but I want to keep this going. So
So, I mean,
Put it on
we
the
can
agenda.
certainly do that and continue to have our workshops, I know, in the new year to review it, so. like, if you want to do that, I'm certainly happy to do that.
You're better off just to wait till next fall and start over.
Probably, yeah, but
There's
I
really,
mean, if you want,
there's nothing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do nothing with it till then.
but we can still do our research on mixed use. right?
Yeah, you can do all you want, but it's not.
Do you want us to just CC you anything we find? I mean, you've been an active participant.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we can certainly, we if we want to revisit it in the fall.
Yeah, I mean,
We can just-
we'll certainly put
we'll
it
start
back into the tickler file
workshops.
for town meeting
We can bring it up
2023.
again. Just put it on the burner.
Speaking of back burner,
The back burner.
did we move forward the conditional use
Yeah,
form
I have
and the
that
expedited reviews?
We do
The
need to
last
do
meeting?
those.
We do,
The
okay.
earlier three.
Those aren't zoning, they're site plan
Site
regs,
Site
but
plan regulations.
we could move those to the same public hearing if you want to.
Okay.
That's the only thing we really need to do with those is just.
Just
vote to
move
put
them.
to public hearing. Yeah.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to move those to first public hearing or a public hearing.
That's the ones we went over earlier today.
No,
The
these were
form-
No,
fairly-
no,
These are the ones we had hanging out there for a
This is site
while.
plan.
Way
not
back.
zoning.
Oh, the
Yeah.
old ones. All right. Yeah. Yes, I'll make a motion to do that.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Are they talking about the forms?
Yeah, the
Appendix I.
conditional use
The
forms.
conditional use.
Appendix I?
Yeah,
And the expedited reviews.
and the expedited review.
Expedited review. Opposed or abstained? All right, motion passes 4-0-0.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, so that won't go to public hearing as well. Any other business, Jay?
And,
Not for me.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
Appendix I and what?
I'm just happy to check those dates.
Yeah, really.
All right, well, I guess we
Oh, expedited review.
put our recommendations in, so.
What are our dates going forward?
I'm sorry?
Our dates to get together again?
Yeah,
Is
let's
it the 11th?
be
Yeah.
clear on the dates. So January 4th,
January 4th,
January 11th is a hearing.
okay.
January 18th, we have a site plan coming in.
So the 11th is the special, it's going to be the special meeting.
Okay.
January 11th. The other two are just the regular meetings.
Right.
The 4th and the 18th. So
So hearing is on the 11th.
we'll meet here, we'll
31st.
meet at the fire station, hopefully.
No, we'll be here.
Oh, we'll be here on the 18th, I mean, on the 11th?
I would plan.
I would probably recommend meeting and discussing that with the chair of the Recreation Commission and seeing kind of what's anticipated, because, you know, based on what media needs will
Well,
be prioritized based on, you know, who needs it.
I need to know.
So we're
because
he-
I-
we're-
Well, I need to know because for December 31st, I have to post. So,
Right, but
You
we're
want-
going to be here for the 11th.
well, it's up to you. Do you want to go over to the fire station? That
I
would
have
be
no
that would be
objection to doing that.
easier than trying
You
to
guys don't have any
naggle the Recreation
issues.
Commission.
Just so long as we can be televised.
Yeah.
And as long as they let us have the room, I guess.
All right, so we would go to the fire station. Okay.
That's the 11th.
There is one limitation, I think, from filming at the fire station, is that I think I'm gonna get it wrong, but we can only go live on one medium, we can only go live on YouTube or TV, I can't remember, it was one though.
Yeah.
It was only one. I need to
Both would be
double check
recorded,
what that
though.
was.
But
It would be recorded. It would be recorded and then to be
Yeah,
replayed.
we can still record and then broadcast anywhere later, but.
All right, so I get a hold of Russ and the fire department, Doug.
But we'll have that posted time before they come in up there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to.
December 31st, it have to be posted.
Okay. Well, that's all for the workshop, I guess, this evening. Thank you, Mr. Charbonneau, for joining us this evening.
Fire station.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want him to leave. There's a Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow night, if you want to go. Because it was supposed to be the 27th, but they moved it up. So if you want to come in about the sidewalk issue.
Do we need to?
No, but I'll update them anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't
Oh,
mean to,
that's
but I
okay.
didn't want to
No,
walk
I-
it out.
yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
No, as long as it's.
Yeah.
As long as it's-
Okay.
I think they already voted anyway to do it.
I
Have you
don't know if
talked
they
to the Board of
did.
Selectmen about the,
No, you did. You two were there. That was it. That was
no,
all.
but I mean about the mixed use? I wonder if we should bring that ask for input from other boards.
Probably not.
Okay. Next item is committee reports. Any reports from any committees?
Good
All right,
night.
thank you. Have a good night. And Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Any reports from any committees? Kim?
Yeah, I do. So I think Jay and I have been looking at each other a couple of times with that circumventional highway. I'm still going to reach out to you, I think, at some point to completely understand this 10-year plan and how we get on that plan and off that plan with NRPC for funding from the state and the federal. I saw an email, I think, from Mr. Wheeler, and also what I learned at NRPC the other night, that Hudson is off the 10-year plan for the circumventional highway.
Circumferential, yes.
They're completely gone. So then it goes, what do we do about our land? So it is in a lot of our master plan chapters. It was a cornerstone to a lot of it. So it's public information, so I'll bring it up now, but I'll bring it to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow. So maybe, I don't know if they want to get the land back, buy it back. There's right of ways you were talking about, but there's sort of discussion start to happen. But if it does, what does that mean to a lot of our plans? So it's a big decision. So that came up. I'll bring that up with them tomorrow just to get some feedback.
I know, not to interject on your committee reports, but I think at some point a workshop would be in order to actually look at the different parcels that are directly impacted, either because they're owned by the state, under DOT, or they're owned by the town, or there's other restrictions on property that was related to the development of the circumferential, because those exist also.
Okay, and
some point.
stakeholders, who would you want to be at that?
I mean, I'm just throwing out that that's something.
Okay, just
we
to
don't
get
have
them
plan
ready
right
for
now,
it.
but I think
Okay.
just to put that on the radar.
Let's get the, yeah.
I think it's a worthwhile exercise.
Oh, absolutely. So that's what they want to do.
Right.
Okay, so the second item was there's a new bill being proposed. I don't know the HR number of it.
1275.
1275. So I believe what happens, and Jay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I will, obviously get more information on it. But right now we have 2 commissioners from every town in NRPC represented.
Between 2 and 4.
Between 2 and 4. Nashua has more based on population. I think Merrimack might be 3. Is that the next one?
Merrimack and
Okay.
Hudson are now 4.
And Hudson are now 4. Oh, so their population's growing. So the new bill would, I believe, want Nashua to have 9 commissioners represent them.
Right.
Merrimack would get 3 commissioners, and
2.
They would get 2, and the rest of us would get 1 commissioner.
Correct.
So that kind of changes the balance of NRPC of.
Now, does that include alternates or
No, just outright, just
just
members.
outright commissioners or regular?
It would be a pretty dramatic.
And somebody from
shift.
Nashua proposed this?
Nashua, so the sponsors are Nashua and Manchester.
One would be, well, we know who they are, but I'll bring that up tomorrow. Nashua and Manchester, yeah. So we don't know why they're doing it. You're going to try to research their motive for doing that.
Yeah, the key sponsor is supposed to be coming to a meeting of the New Hampshire Association of Regional Planning Commissions to discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll hear more there.
Okay.
Is it something, do you think, that's likely to gain any traction?
I mean, it's hard to say. We just learned about it.
Yeah.
So
Because the bills just came out, right?
yeah, I mean, I so long as people are aware, I'd be surprised. You never know, but it pretty radically alters. I mean, we have, I think, 33 commissioners now, and this would, first of all, cut the total number of commissioners pretty dramatically. But the balance in this region would be Nashua would get 9, and all of the other 12 towns would have 14.
So
Collectively. So that's a pretty dramatic shift.
Interesting.
And as it was stated at the meeting, you've spent decades building these relationships, working together, all the towns, so all of a sudden the balance is starting to shift. If it's all about Nashua,
It's a
then you
very
start to
dramatic
say,
shift.
why are we in it? So, we'll see where that goes. But is it just our commission, or is it
No, it's
around the state?
statewide.
Around the
It's-
state,
it's
they're
the whole
doing this?
state.
Okay, so it's based on population or census? What is it based on?
Yeah, the way it was written, the way the bill is written is every community would get one representative per 10,000 people. So Nashua is over 90,000 people, so they get 9.
Oh.
Everybody else, so Hudson and Merrimack would get 2 because they're over 20. Everybody else gets 1.
So that was a surprise the other night.
Yeah.
Let's see, any other reports? Not really. The Board of Selectmen is having a meeting tomorrow night here at 6:30 PM. It was going to be our meeting that was on schedule for the 27th, but they moved it to the 21st. Way out into the future, NRPC's meeting for their quarterly commissioners meeting, I believe is March 16th, 2022 in Nashua, but we'll give you more data, information on that later. And I believe that's all I have.
You say that meeting is when there's the presentation about the bill?
No,
No, that's the next meeting of the Association of Regional Planning Commissions.
Oh, I
That
see.
is,
I'm trying to understand if it's for regional planning, yeah, what is there to gain, I guess, of
I mean, I
having
have-
it so
I have to
one-sided by the cities?
I know. I mean, I have to assume that the bill sponsor and sponsors feel that Nashua and Manchester should carry more weight. I mean, that's my assumption. I don't want to speak for them because I haven't heard from them, but that's got to be the reason that they're doing it.
It's- I mean, they can't develop outside of their boundaries, so what, I don't know, I guess I just don't.
They want them to, they believe that they should have more of a vote, and particularly transportation issues. I think that's really what it comes down to. But I don't know what would trigger it because I'm not aware of any conflict or problem that needs to be addressed. I'm not aware of an issue where there's been surrounding towns saying, I don't want it, and Nashua or Manchester saying, I do. I'm just not aware of any scenario like that where there's been a
Are they anticipating pushback for railroad?
possibly.
If there does, get an extension of that railroad?
That's possible, but I still don't see where that would really come into play because, I mean, ultimately that's a state decision.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure what the motivation is. I mean, I could speculate, but that could be it. I just don't know where it's coming from. If there were a issue, that we had, because very often you see legislation in response to an issue that's come up. I'm not aware of an issue that's come up. So that's where it's a little bit baffling. Because,
Yeah, that's what I don't see where's the motivation?
for instance, I know that for the major transportation issues that Manchester cares about, I know that their regional planning commission has also prioritized those issues. So, because I mean, everybody uses 93, 293, the turnpike. So those kinds of things have never been an issue.
and we usually vote with what Nashua wants anyway. It's never been
We've never had.
we're usually
I
unanimous.
mean, we've never
usually.
had a challenge that I've been aware of
Yeah.
because the regional priorities, I mean, pretty much wherever you live, you're using the same highway system.
Mhm.
We all are, so we know what those roads are. So yeah, I mean, I've never been aware of an issue.
No,
So that's kind of why it's a little baffling because
it's March 16th, not March 27th, 22nd, Joan, for the next meeting, March 16th.
Right, and 12/22.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
certainly see what develops out of that.
right.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of hearings and.
Yeah.
possible,
And we'll keep you posted. And once we know when there's any hearings, I assume it'll be
Yeah.
municipal and county will be the committee. So
And Ralph Boehm is now a commissioner, right? And he's a rep. He came in with that bill in his
That's right.
hand. for this first meeting.
Okay, got it.
Is
So
that why
at
he
least
wanted-
there's voice there, you know.
Yeah, is that why he wanted to join? I could see him being very against.
No, he didn't join the NRPC for that.
Oh,
It just
okay.
was his first meeting and he saw that on the agenda.
Okay.
But it's nice that he has a voice there.
Yes,
Right, because he's in the legislature.
Yeah.
Right.
He has that right.
That's right. That's helpful.
That's good. Okay, Conservation Commission met in December. Do we know when our next meeting is, Joan or Matt? 7th of January?
6th, sorry.
All right, 6th of January, and that is going to be the fire station?
No, I believe we're free of conflict.
Oh, okay.
with,
So it'll be here?
I think so.
Okay, at 6:30?
I hope so.
Wait a minute, January
7.
6th, right?
6th, yeah.
Six.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
off that day.
January
I don't have a
6th.
calendar in front of me, so I'm sorry. I have to rely on
The
you guys.
committee is
Um,
for you.
The Lower Merrimack Local River Advisory Committee met last week. We had a meeting in Nashua at the City Hall. Nothing major. It was a project that I think it's an organization that is interested in building and flying model airplanes. And they wanted to open a field, I guess, that's in Merrimack to make it more so that they can fly these planes. It was kind of interesting.
On the river, where? Could we say fly now by the river?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, near the river, but there's an open field, but they want to take down some trees
No,
that,
not good.
well, not a lot of trees. They're going to keep a good buffer, but some trees just to keep the field a little bit wider because when they fly their planes, apparently sometimes what happens is they can't, I don't know, navigate them up a certain point.
Well,
and
are
they
the
get
trees
lost
back
and
in,
stuck in the trees
back in
and
the
everything.
field or are the trees on the riverbank?
No, these are in a field.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think they walked the property with the Merrimack Conservation Commission, and so I think they got approval from them to do it. So it was an interesting conversation. The Capital Improvement Committee is supposed to meet in January. We were supposed to meet in December. That meeting got canceled, so we're looking for January, the beginning of the year. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that we'll have a meeting then. And that's all I have for reports. Kate, I'm sorry. I know you're the budget committee.
The budget committee has been reviewing the town and school warrant article presentations. And on January 6th, we are voting on the warrant articles. I believe that is in the high school auditorium. Unless something changed with LCTV, but I'm pretty sure that was where it was decided. And then the Griffin Memorial School reimagining meeting was in November, and was it November?
December,
No, that was 2 weeks ago, right?
December 7th.
December 7th. So, and the most recent plan put forward is they're now looking to find a different lot entirely to build an elementary school because they're finding there's it's going to be very difficult to mitigate all of the water issues that are on the lot right now. And even building, the original thought was building up closer to the middle school will get away from those water issues. And now they're finding that it's actually worse as you get closer to the middle school. So they're considering trying to find some property, hopefully along Albuquerque, to continue that sort of the entire movement of town center has kind of migrated towards Albuquerque and away from Charles Bancroft. So they're working on finding a property that's feasible, and hopefully the next meeting is January 18th. And so I would hope that they would have something to present then.
Interesting.
Kate, did you say water issues?
Yes.
Okay.
Water issues. Sorry, my Philadelphia accent is coming through.
May I add to that? It was a public meeting. They came in front of the Board of Selectmen, just talking about land. Quickly, I just reviewed our ordinances about schools. Wasn't really a lot. It'll depend where they buy the land, what district, obviously. But we had parking. We had, there wasn't a lot to give them. Basically, it was, try to have the sidewalks, and We don't have a lot of ordinances for schools.
I thought,
Yeah, none.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 pages.
I guess I had it in my head. I had it. I was thinking that how the town doesn't. The ordinances don't necessarily apply to the
Right.
town.
No, it would be whatever
Schools
district they buy the
exempt.
land.
School,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Schools
Their
exempt.
own-
Okay.
But where you explicitly look for the word school, there really wasn't much. It was the impact fees, it was parking, they did explicitly mention Griffin. They did say back in 2002, actually back around 1998 or 2000, maybe it was 2002, they were approaching build out back then. Now, and I don't know if they've gone down in head count or up, it probably fluctuates, but
I think it
the
has,
town knew it was coming.
the original plans were for a larger elementary school than is needed. So that was partially why they did not continue with.
Yep.
And the original plans, they weren't ever blueprints. It was like a conceptual idea, and it was too much than what's needed now. So I think that was a big reason why they kind of started from scratch.
That's fine.
And then they did say that the state recommends a minimum of 10 acres, but they could, because of the smaller school size, they could probably get away with 8 acres. So
I was
that's what
just-
they're looking at. They're looking at lots 8
Yeah.
acres and larger.
We're just trying to help them gear to some kind of, some kind of laws to help them out, but there really isn't a lot unless they make a selection of where they're going, what part of the town, what district, yeah.
I'm not sure. They might be heading to conservation to see if there's any kind of land swap or something. I'm not sure what their plans are, but what they're looking for. So.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, there aren't too many options.
Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah, very limited. I think. Okay. Well, I guess we'll keep us posted on that. Approval of the planning board minutes of 12/7/2021. Did everybody have an opportunity to look at those? Have any questions, concerns? I thought they looked pretty good. But sometimes. Oh, that is one thing. I did submit our recommendation for no comment to the zoning board for that December 20th meeting. I think you sent the minutes.
I sent her the minutes just in
Yeah,
case.
I had sent her an email basically stating that we had voted on it and what the vote was. So. Anybody have any questions on the minutes? If you want to approve them, certainly welcome to having a motion to do that.
Normally I would abstain because I wasn't at the meeting, but would that cause it to fail? I'm trying to think. It's only
No.
3 is
No.
needed, right?
Yes,
The quorum is 4.
a quorum is 4, but if you vote to abstain, that's still a vote. So,
Okay,
As long as you have 4 people.
right.
4 people voting. All right. I just wanted to make sure it didn't need like 4 yeses.
I guess it's me.
I guess.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as
Okay, I have a motion. You have a second. Do we have discussion? All right, all those in favor of approval of the December 7th, 2021 meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained.
Abstain.
All right, motion passes 3-0-1. Okay, thank you. Any other business this evening? Jay, do you have anything?
I do not.
Joan, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. If there's no other business this evening, well, this is the last meeting, I think, of the year of 2021. So we'll be going into 2022. We actually made it to the end of of this year, remarkably so. I don't think James is going to be happy with me. I didn't make the record tonight, but anyway, I just want to say to all of you, it's been a pleasure this year working with all of you, and it's been always a pleasure. And the very best to all of you in 2022, and Merry Christmas, and hopefully everyone be well. Okay, and we'll see you soon.
Merry
All
Christmas.
right.
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstained. Motion passes 4-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening. Everybody have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year. Good night.